Well, good morning. Good day,
Pastords. For another episode, another exciting, shocking, mesmerizing episode of the Pastords.
Are we doing a big reveal?
Let's do it.
You said shocking, so
what are you going to reveal, Bruce?
what's the big reveal?
We're going to reveal the cost of your septic repair.
Oh my gosh. Nope, I don't think our listeners are ready for that.
The big reveal.
So it's so funny. People are asking me right now,
is the number larger or smaller than a new car?
Yes, it's exceeded the new car zone. It's not quite up to a tractor yet.
Oh, okay.
So that's good.
Okay.
So that's good because you get in the tractor range, it's a whole different game.
Whoa. And you just bought a tractor recently.
Yes, I did.
By the way, I saw that.
We're remortgaging it.
That tractor is a monster.
It's a big old tractor.
It's no Lamborghini, but gosh, it's
a big old thing. You get to
it's
climb
beautiful.
up. You get to climb up steps to go into it.
No, it's like it. Just seeing it was like,
it just made you want to go drive it, didn't it?
Yeah.
You should have driven it while you were there.
I know.
No, I mean it's just it will immediately take you back 40 years.
Oh, it
just that.
Yeah.
Or for you, maybe 50 years. I don't know.
I got a couple more years to go back than you
You're
did.
so much older than I am. But yeah, the tractor is super fun. It's amazing. Gosh, it's just amazing what you can get done on a tractor. And yes. So what's new, Raj?
Well, new. I was thinking about that word pet peeves.
Oh, we're back to peas.
I just keep coming back to peas.
All right.
You know how I love those P words.
All right.
Well, I was looking. So pet peeve. I was just curious what. Maybe it'd be fun to talk about pet peeves. We have some common ones.
The minor annoyances of life.
So a pet peeve, yeah. So peeve is something that irritates you.
Okay.
And then your pet ones are the ones that are maybe especially irritating.
You hold them close to your heart.
Right. You guard them. You nurse them along because you take care of them like a pet.
Yes.
We both have the slow driver in the left lane pet peeve, which I experienced yesterday after bringing my son, taking him back to the airport in Nashville.
Okay. Yeah.
There's these people that I just love this left lane.
The left lane's great.
I'm the only one on the highway. Isn't that amazing?
It's so clear in front of me. Oh, and look,
right?
I'm setting the pace for all these folks behind me. They're just enjoying, just settling in. We're playing follow the leader. Life is good.
You're not hearing any honking. You're not seeing any flashing lights. You're just enjoying your day.
We're just camping and roasting marshmallows. All right. So yeah, we've talked about that pet peeve.
Okay. So let's scratch.
I have a new pet peeve.
Oh, okay.
I have a new one. So when
it's not me.
No, when I go into the office and the internet's down.
Oh God.
Which is happening a lot. So, which is why, again, we're doing the Pastords live from the tiny house in.
But I do like this setting. I do like this setting.
It is a nice setting.
It's such a nice chair that you. And Bruce gave me the most comfortable chair. I just want to give you props. Thank you.
You know, that's a pet peeve of mine when people give me props and it's not serious. It's not sincere.
No, I am in the nicer chair.
You are. It's a very nice
I
chair.
am in a very comfortable.
But look what I can do.
Well,
I can swivel.
You are the swiveler.
I'm the swiveler, as these things go. What was my pet peeve?
I'm going to be sleeping.
Oh, yeah. But I realize we are so dependent on the internet for like getting work done. And there's certain things which you can always do on your phone.
Right.
But then there's other things that you need a little larger screen than, 2 by 6 inches to get things done.
Right.
Like when you're working on your web page and whatnot.
Well, isn't part of the pet peeve that part of what I'm paying for at the office is
internet
working
connection.
internet?
Yeah.
I mean, aren't most industries and businesses reliant on?
Well, and that gets to what a pet peeve is. Pet peeve is it's attached to what we understand to be a right.
Yep.
The right to drive whatever speed we want on the left lane.
Right.
The right to internet that works.
Right.
Yep. Yeah.
So my pet peeve, I realize that one of my pet peeves is like anything that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I don't
technology for you in general.
Right. So this is lawnmowers comes to mind.
Tires.
Tires.
Roger has a hard time with tires. Just
even new ones.
Keeping them aired up. Tires.
Did you say aired up?
Technology can really frustrate both of us. I mean, it becomes this pet peeve, like you particularly, and it'll happen if you're in a compressed time frame. So you've given just enough time to get this task done, and you jump in and like updating. I mean, that's a pet peeve. The automatic update. Always ask me before you update. I think I've clicked that 100 times. Always ask me.
No. And my computer sometimes would just randomly shut down. So I'll just, bring it up in the morning. It's like, I got to go back on Chrome and it tells, oh, your Chrome shut down unexpectedly. Would you like us to restore your pages?
Rebuilding.
Yes, please.
Rebuilding. Well, I realize for you, computers in general are not a pet peeve. That's what's called a chronic peeve. It's just a chronic peeve. It just happens like all the time. You've gone through more laptops than I can even count. I've had the same one for 5 years, continues to work extremely well.
No,
it waits to ask me if I want to restart, which is helpful.
So I experienced a pet peeve this morning.
This doesn't involve your wife, does it?
Actually, and this may go into something that's outside of pet peeve, but Joy brought the mail in from yesterday, so I got this thing, and of course, you're going to know where it looks like a bill.
Oh yeah.
So I open it up, and it's got my one of my URLs, actually RogerMartinJr.com.
Yep,
so my so RogerMartinJr.com renewal and blah blah blah. And so it has all this, looks
very official.
Looks everything like official. It's a bill, but buried in there, this is not a bill. This is a solicitation. This is actually, we want to promote your. So but all the wording.
If you got out your magnifying glass,
right,
you could see, oh yeah, this is not a bill. This is a solicitation for your marketing, blah 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 blah.
And so then I'm looking at, and it's just like, that's just so wrong.
And again, it preys on, particularly the elderly. That'll like they're very. I've got a bill. I need to write a check for it. And they send that thing in.
Which happened to our mom.
Which has happened to our mom.
Yeah.
And that's a pet peeve, and that's associated not simply with a right. That's associated with something that's evil.
Evil, but legal.
Yeah.
Here's something. This isn't a scammer.
That is hard to imagine, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
In other words, we even know that there are crackdowns on certain kind of things. So this is actually legal to do. Whereas, like phishing or other kinds, they're not actually legal to.
Right.
But this is. But then I'm going to get at. This is where. So God does this all the time to me. So then I'm looking at that, and it's like, okay. It's true, it's right, but it's misleading.
Well, your like the one I get every now and then is your repair warranty on your vehicle is expired, because I know what vehicle I have.
Right.
So I never had an extended vehicle warranty. I mean, in other words, it's true in the sense that the original warranty from the manufacturer expired. Right. But it creates a sense, oh no, I'm not covered. And again, I wonder how many people write a check to.
Right. Or it's just a business, right? Someone handles the bills that come through. But what I realized is, so as I'm looking, when I say true, they tell you in that this is not a bill. Somewhere in there it says this is not a bill, but everything about it looks like a bill. I mean, it's intended to give the impression of a bill, even though it's not. But where God comes after me. And this is one of the annoying things that God does to save me. But it is like when I was, even this morning, feeling a bit of frustration about that. This is just God. Do you ever do that, Raj? Do you ever say something that is true, but it's misleading? You are saying a true thing to give a false impression in some way that will benefit you. And I realized, yeah.
Can you claim the fifth with God? I cannot
cheating.
answer
You
that.
know the answer to that question already.
I cannot answer that under advice of counsel. I cannot answer that because I would be incriminating myself. No, I think we all do that at different times. Yeah, even we've talked about image management before is part of that, because I was thinking the other side of that, there's the bill, but then there's the other side. Every now and then you get a check.
Yep.
And it's a check. I mean, everything about it says it's a check.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it looks like a check. It's got your name on it. It's got thousands of dollars over here. Everything about it says it's a check, except there's a tiny little thing that says non-negotiable. This is not a real check. But if you do, they're trying to get you to borrow $5,000. What amounts to.
Well,
you can cash it,
right,
and you're in for 400%
what they're telling you,
interest.
Right, it's a loan.
Uh-huh.
The fine print says everything about it looks like gift, bonanza. You won the lottery, and this is a loan. If you actually cash this, you will have, like you said,
cost you 407% interest. So let's talk more about that conversation you had with God. Where do you do that?
Well,
we're getting very personal.
No, we've laughingly talked about it. So in my earliest days, I developed this skill as a teenager, where mom and dad are asking a question. I know what they're asking. I'll answer a different question. I am misleading. There can be. I could have the thing. Did you take your brother's backpack? And I would say, I don't have it. Well, I've put it somewhere.
I don't. You're a politician.
No, I'm
you
telling.
Didn't actually answer the question.
And it's absolutely true. What I'm saying is, I don't have it. I don't know why you're. So I'm telling the truth, but I am sending a lie. In other words,
and you could even say, well, do you know where the backpack is? Well, vaguely, it's in the closet on the upper shelf, but you don't know how many inches from the left or right. So in truth, you don't know exactly. You couldn't pinpoint exactly. This is how bad I am. Roger would never go this far. Do I know exactly where the backpack is? No.
Latitude, longitude, clueless.
Cannot give you. I can't drop a pin on it right now.
What Bruce might do, he gets a question like that, and it's like, oh, look, an armadillo.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Deflection, redirection.
Yeah, it's so. Yeah, and this is the rub in my industry. So this in the outdoor adventure industry.
Okay.
Think about this. So when I'm pitching it, if you go to my website or if you get a Facebook ad about an adventure coming up, what I'm going to pitch to you is imagine, drinking margaritas out on the Pacific Ocean after a breezy 6-mile hike, settling into camp. The sun's going down. You're enjoying pizzas over an open fire, and everyone's like, I want that. What I don't put in the ad is you have 2 delays at the airport. They lose your luggage on the way over. The sun's blazing down 90 degrees. It's so hot, you're sweating.
No, right. At that point, you can feel every bone in every muscle in your body.
You've fallen 6 days.
Right. You don't even have the strength to lift the margarita to your mouth.
You're so exhausted. You're like, wow, that was
You survived a lightning storm in which you thought you would die.
No, it is interesting. Even when I think about how any marketing works. So I wonder, wouldn't it be funny? It's like the lawyer ads. That really fast right afterwards. We're not saying that the value of our representation is better than the value of any other representation. That whole thing. I could put at the bottom of this thing, you might die. Lightning strikes are certainly possible. Any note, because there's 100 bad things that can go wrong.
Like the pharmaceutical industry apparently has to do.
Oh my gosh. It's literally like they're saying possible side effects are death.
Well, sometimes it is death.
I know.
Possible
Fatal.
side effects are, and you could die.
After I hear the 17 side effects, I'm like, I think I'll stick with the migraine.
Right.
At least I know what I'm working with. I've just got the migraine, but no, I wonder how that. Yes, but I suppose if you were, if whatever condition you had was bad enough, you're like, I will tackle the side effects.
Yeah.
To do it. So sort of what we're talking about is truth in advertising, but we're also talking about truth in general.
Right.
Where do I intentionally mislead? Not maybe in my mind, I'm not deceiving, but I'm being misleading. Man, I've got to redo my entire website now.
I got to redo my taxes.
After
that conviction,
you've already done your taxes?
Well, no. I've just said this is now we're entering that season where this line gets tested for me.
Yeah.
About what does income mean anyway,
Roger? So this is
truth?
This is where you and I are so similar. So when it comes to taxes, I want to pay my fair share.
Right.
I don't want to pay more than my fair share. So
Definitely
I had
not.
this moment. So I bought this side by side in Illinois. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So they don't take out Alabama taxes.
Right.
And at the end of the year in Alabama,
they're going to ask you.
Alabama asks you to itemize anything you bought in another state that didn't charge Alabama tax, and then you pay that tax at the end of the year. So literally, some years I'm going through a whole list of just Amazon. I keep them in email folders, but Amazon always charges tax now. Almost everyone does,
Okay.
which is great. But this place did not, and it's a big chunk of money. So then I looked at the dealer invoice, and I'm like, I wonder if I have to include freight. I wonder if I have to include dealer prep.
Uh-huh.
And then I realized this is the convicting moment. I'm like, all right, it's because there was a lot of that built into this because it came from China.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
okay.
which is a lot. And I'm like,
it's a long way.
I could truthfully say the side by side itself costs this amount, and I'm going to pay tax on that. But all this other. But then I realized, no, if I go down to the courthouse, if I buy a car here in the state of Alabama and I go to the courthouse, they take the entire invoice and charge you 4%. And here's what I thought. And here's what was so sad to me about myself. I was trying to figure out a way, think about this, to save $160. I mean, I know $160 is $160, right. But I'm like, would I really sacrifice integrity over $160? Because it goes back to that thing where Jesus said, Bruce, and all of us, if you're dishonest in little things, you're going to be dishonest in big things. We kind of separate big things, little things, $1,600 versus $160, $16,000 versus $160. In other words, but he just says, if you're dishonest with little things, if you're unfaithful in a few things, you'll be dishonest with much.
And it's almost the idea when I hear that God knows, like faith starts with a small seed, but so does dishonesty.
Deceit,
so does,
yeah.
In other words, and any number of things we could think about bitterness, whatever. It just starts as and Jesus trying to stop it early on
because
develop a root.
Yeah, because I was realizing integrity is chipped away, tiny decisions at a time. Sometimes we make big integrity decisions and we blow up our life. Okay, I get that.
Right.
I've done that before. But then there's other ones that are just little. It doesn't even seem like it's a problem. And here's the terrible thing about me, because I think in words, I can rationalize almost anything.
Right.
Just working it out in my head and actually putting myself in a legal environment. Like if I'm standing before a judge, hey, this was freight and this is dealer prep. This is not actually. But then I'm like, would I sacrifice my integrity over $160 in taxes?
But what you're saying, again, and I just see this so often, is where God again is trying to protect us. We could look and say, "Oh, God's not that petty," or He's not that, or that you're that. But what the reminder is, it's what I think Jesus was saying with hate and murder. You think you're fine without murder, but don't you see that murder almost always, or very, very often, get tracked to
starts with a
little seed of hate.
Uh-huh.
There's a little, and so that's not a big deal. We would all say, oh, murder. So for me, Raj would say outright lying, just blatant dishonesty. I don't do that. And I got to thinking, like, how many people, whether it's a pyramid scheme or whether it's FTX, there's some, which is just this little place in the books. We're just going to adapt the books, this little spot here. But the problem is you don't get caught. And then, but
it reinforces something in your mind.
Isn't what Jesus saying, little thing, you can't be trusted once you start crossing a line. Don't you see this starts? You and I have occasionally you occasionally run into some person that seems just to be able to lie with impunity, just no conscience.
Yeah.
Well, that almost certainly started with, I'm just gonna fudge a little thing. We don't even say lie, fudge. We have a fun little word for it. There's some little
white lies.
White lies. And so there's some little thing, not a big deal. And God graciously saying, small integrity is a big deal because you're always planting seeds. Don't you realize that you're going to grow? You're going to reap what you sow.
Yes.
And so just a little revenge fantasy, I'm just going to harbor. I'm just, well, again, it's why even forgiveness, which the sooner the better. Jesus says, like, if you think of something, you're on the way and you remember something, because Jesus knows that little relational breakdowns, little hurts that are left as seeds, if you don't dig those up, if you don't do something with them, they get bigger and they could end up as a divorce. They could end up as a murder. They could end up as an assault. They can end up as a broken relationship, two people, good friends that never talk anymore, a parent and a child that, because this wasn't a big deal. You didn't take small things big enough. So again, not God being like this little, I'm just this nitpick might.
Right. It's not because I don't believe that God is petty.
No.
I mean, in that sense, anytime Jesus is teaching something, he's saving us. It's this idea that when we talk about Jesus as our Savior, I no longer see that as simply an eternal destiny Savior. The way of Christ is saving me all the time.
All the time.
Jesus says, look, if you're contemplating adultery with a person, you've already gone there. You've already done that, because he recognizes that what we think about and what we dwell on is ultimately, because he would always talk about what's inside eventually comes out.
Right. Stop it in the thought stage.
He said, you guys are worried about what goes into the body and what you're eating and drinking, and these foods are out and these drinks are out and all that kind of stuff. He said the real problems are inside.
Yep.
That come out, because out of the heart, he says, comes all of these different kinds of evil. And maybe that is even Jesus saying you've got to protect your heart on the little things. You're protecting your integrity. You're protecting your heart so that it doesn't, because I realize the more you do something and get away with it. Okay. The more you begin to feel like you're untouchable. I've even watched situations out there, even political situations or even celebrity situations, where it seemed like a person got away with something for a long time, had enough money or whatever else to kind of keep it under wraps or keep it out of a civil suit or a lawsuit or whatever else. But then eventually it just becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden the person's in prison.
Yep.
Well, they didn't start there thinking, if I continue on this track, I'm going to be in prison one day.
No, let me tell a story of myself.
Yes, let's hear a story about Roger.
No, so decades ago, I'm an assistant pastor at a church. So working under a pastor so I'm the associate, do different things around the church, whatever kind of the pastor will ask me to do. That was sort of my job description, was sort of a blanket gopher. So he was heading out of town for a couple of days, and there was something down at the church he wanted me to straighten up or clean up, whatever. So he takes off. So he's coming back. I think it was 4 days. Calls me on the third day. Hey, Raj, did you get that thing done? Because he told me by a certain time to have it done. Did you get that area straightened up that I asked you to straighten up. So I'm in this moment. And so where my mind goes is I can go over there right now and do it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So I can drive, or the church building is just down here.
All we're doing is altering time.
So something then, so I could comfortably say something to the effect of, yeah, got that. You'll be happy with it. Kind of a thing, I'm just talking to me, kind of just, So then there's long pause, and he's like, yeah, I came back early from my trip. I'm down at the church.
Oh, Raj.
Now we could get into, okay, was that the best way for the do it? And is he mislead?
I just want to throw up.
But listen, was that God saving me?
Yes.
To your point.
Yep.
Oh, yes. Oh, my heart, it was like, okay, so I went down and we had to have a talk.
You got taken to the principal's office.
But at the end of the day, that's a mercy.
That's right. That's a grace.
Where do how often again does something start as no one saw? How often does someone say, I never thought this would ever happen. I never thought I could do, but it's a little flirting thing. And then you never would have thought it would get there. It's this little, I'm just going to adjust this one little thing on my taxes. I'm just not going to report this. And then it turns it, okay, tax fraud, or what kind of, where the mercy is getting caught early. Well, of course, the one mercy can be, I just decide that small things matter and I'm going to matter. Or God could, okay, you thought a small thing didn't matter. I'm going to try and help you here. Now, please work with me on this, but I have to believe I was more careful with my words. I'm not saying I've never lied since then. I've never massaged the truth. But I did. There was a painful reminder the next time I'm thinking about it.
You'll never forget that.
I haven't. Yeah. Never again. 30 plus years ago. Yeah. I won't forget that as a grace.
I'm already thinking back of what you should have said. Are you at the church right now? Because my answer is very dependent on that. By that time, he could have gone to the church and be home. He's like, no, I'm not at the church.
Here's the thing, you could get into the fine details. Is he playing a little loose with the truth there? Is he giving a fault? But that would just be the self-righteous me kicking in.
Well, I do tell parents, if you're out there, don't bait your children. If you know what your child did, just say, hey, I know you did this. Why did you do that? What were you thinking? What was going on there? Because otherwise it compounds the whole issue.
Well, it does.
And I'm like, don't create a space where your child wants to lie.
And then they can't hear that the reality is, if you've almost embarrassed them or shamed them, or you're trying because you tricked them, you can lose them. Even if what you're saying, you can lose your ability to say something because you pulled the fast one. They don't feel like they can trust you because you did something covertly. There are fine lines there. I'm not speaking into every parent and what. Anyway,
no, and I'm certainly not the go-to guy on parenting. It's just one thing that I learned in the process of even raising Zach. Hey, if I already know this thing, don't put him in a position where he's going to be tempted to lie, because that is, in my sense, I'm baiting him. This is what I know. I need you to fill in the blanks for what I don't know, which was why you did that, or what was going on there, and whatever else.
So the other thing then that I felt, this is what God does. When I was looking at that piece of mail that's gotten this wonderful conversation about integrity and small things. But the other thing God spoke to me about that he does all the time, well, the thing I want to attach is God is teaching me every time something bugs me, or morally bugs me.
Yeah.
Joy does something to me. Joy holds a standard to me that I don't feel is reasonable. God almost incessantly pulls up a mirror. But it's another grace. And if he hasn't pulled this mirror up with you, it's coming. And we're going to help it come. What I'm saying is, one of the things God is teaching me to start asking is, every time I get a little morally indignant about something that's truly wrong, like I think when I look at that with that misleading, so God asks, do you ever do that, Raj? But I found other places. Joy holds a standard to me. Well, that's not you're holding some part of my past against me. You're putting, what's the word I'm looking for? You're transferring something that you experienced from me, projecting 7 years ago onto today. And I don't think that's fair. God is teaching me to ask, Raj, where do you do that with joy? And here's what I found with God. If you ask him that, he can jog your memory.
He's good at that.
No, seriously. I can think of specific examples. Like right now, I can think of an example where there's this past thing Joy did that I find myself at times wanting to hold against her. Something she did years ago, but it bothered me because she was inconsistent. Right? This was inconsistent. And it's like,
and I've got it's so funny. I've got a whole chapter in the book I'm working on called "Consistently Inconsistent."
Oh, good.
What's true about all of us is we're
wait, what book now?
Just Undivided.
Okay, so this book,
this
that's why I want to clarify
this
for
whole
people
thing
listening.
about the polarization in culture and everything's black or white and you're either this or this. But I realize how inconsistent we are even with how we hold anything.
Yes.
And standards is one of those things. We're consistently inconsistent. We hold this standard to this group of people, but we don't necessarily hold it to this group of people. Or maybe
myself.
Or myself.
Right. What Jesus would say to the Pharisees, yeah, you're putting on a weight on them that
no one can carry.
Right.
You're not lifting a finger to help them.
Right.
No, I was stuck on the word incessantly when you used it. I thought there was a better word you could have used there about the mirror, incessantly. But it struck me that there's another pet peeve that I have. Almost always holds up, but incessantly is a fun word. No. Yeah.
Pet peeve.
You ready for a pet peeve?
Pet peeve time.
Irregardless. So to regard something is to with regard to. If you say regardless, it means without regard to. If you say irregardless, it actually means, again, with regard to. And every time I hear it, I'm
You're
like,
negating your regardless.
Exactly. So
unregardless.
Every time I hear that in my mind, I'm thinking of the Sicilian in the Princess Bride.
I do not think that means what you think it means.
Yeah, you keep using that word. But I think you mean regardless, but you're saying irregardless, and it's just funny. It's not really a pet peeve. I just get tickled at it. And I realize even part of the reason that I noticed that is because our mom was such a word person, English person, wanted us to be careful with enunciation, using words in the right context. Literally, ain't was a bad word. I mean, like I put it right up there.
No,
with
that's
that's
a four-letter word.
Literally. So that was just out.
No, and I've actually had to get past part of even the moralizing around using bad grammar. But we had very high radar for incorrect grammar, so it developed a peeve almost where it kind of.
But again, that peeve was less about a right to; it was more about superiority.
Well,
I know what this word means, but I don't think you know.
Or you just don't know these words.
Bless him. No, I was thinking after our last podcast, because I said during the podcast, I judge all the time. And we didn't even follow up with that. But then I realized, I just thought more about it in the last week, and I'm like, I am judging all the time in a bad way. I realized there's a good kind of judgment where we're making discernments about things, where we're making discernments about right or wrong, good, better, best, all that. But I realize a lot of times my judgments are superiority, that inferior, that's a dumb way to think, or whatever that is. And I'm like, that's just evil. That anytime I start seeing myself in relation to others as somehow superior, it's just bad. And I'm like, and the very fact that God shows that to me is a grace.
Yes.
So I can stop doing it. It's that incessant God who puts the mirror up and go, you who judge others.
Right. Or that word, the measure you use for others, it's going to be used for you. You just reverse that around.
Right.
So fun little place where I realized that we do this incessant judging, this judging all the time. I was just thinking, it's nearly impossible for us to take a phrase like, we talk about music we like, but there's music I don't like. It's very hard not to turn that into bad music. I've never been I just don't like twangy country. I love a lot of pop country, but just the old drawl and the real twangy kind of. Well, I realized how quick it is to go. I don't like that music. That's not good music.
That's dumb music.
That's dumb. And here's another thing I'll watch, and we may have talked about it before, but like I'll see some song, YouTube song, a video from the 80s, and it's some classic rock or something that we loved, or Eagles or whatever, and then you look down the comment sections, and invariably somewhere down and say, this is when they made real music. Today's generation doesn't.
Right.
And it's just funny. This is the music I love. Goes from music I love to this is good
music
that I use as standard. Like today's music doesn't hold a candle, or even people that kind of say, I don't like hip hop. Well, hip hop's not even music, or twangy country. That's not really even singing. That's just crooning, or what? And we're making judgments from likes and dislikes. We're actually start turning that into
almost a moral thing.
Right.
So that's a
moral or it's not quality. Because I don't like it.
Right.
It has no value. It has no. Where literally my standard of like is becoming a statement of value. It's goodness. It's beauty. Like that. It's just, I realize it's just a little place where I turn my likes into actually a measure of whether something's good or beautiful, simply on the basis of whether I like that or not. That's just, it's a broken thing that God incessantly reminds me of.
I do think there is such a thing as good music. Just throwing it out there. I'm not saying what it is, what it isn't. That's a great point. But
the bottom line is, you don't like any bad music.
Yeah. Or
I do. I like some music that I wouldn't want people to know about because I think it's.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's.
Well, what I mean
don't even get started there. They might think you like polka, don't you?
I like accordion. A couple of Miley Cyrus songs, or I like
you do not.
Or we talked about Paula Abdul or someone you hadn't even heard.
Oh.
There's some song in general, like these sing-songy kind of things, but secretly I do like some songs that I'm not sure that's great.
Oh, well,
but I like it. What?
I was camping last weekend with my buddy Mark Booth and his son Jonathan Booth. Anyway, he was talking about how all these young artists are taking a lot of the Christian music from the 80s and they're redoing it. Like Amy Grant's Heart in Motion and Baby Baby. And here I am. I realized for the last week, Baby Baby has been going through my head. And I'm like, I can't get it out. I just can't stop it.
Stop for a minute.
Baby, I'm so glad you're mine. Dun, 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 dun. And every single day you put my heart in motion. Baby, I realize that there's just no getting over you. That's bad music. I think we can all agree that's bad music. Roger, there's got to be a line where there's actually bad music. I realize I agree with you. We're trying to widen our bandwidth, But
but aren't you at
we just dipped under.
Just a real. You start getting into that thing. So millions of people love this music, and I can just consign it into, oh, that's awful music. It's just on the basis of I don't like the style.
And in the culture we grew up in, they actually they didn't just moralize it; they demonized it.
Oh,
that's the devil's music,
right?
You know, if you listen to that, check this out. If you listen to that backwards, it's saying worship Satan, worship Satan. I'm like, okay, I was never smart enough to figure out how to listen to a cassette tape backwards. You know, you remember that whole thing where?
Oh, I do. I remember listening to a guy talk about it, and then he would give examples. I'm going to play this backwards, something you never do. Thank God.
Why would I play music backwards? No, we had the Devil's Beat that I remember which was
syncopation. That was
so funny. I'll never. Certain things just stick in your mind. This was after a chapel service. We just had the rock music talk, why it's bad, and the bad beat, and Don Bush, bless him, because he just was so funny. We started
one of your teachers,
one of my teachers. He starts the class. He's up there at the podium, and he just goes, and he just started laughing, and we just went on with class. But I mean, it's like he knew. He's like, this is crazy. I'm in Crazyville. Woo! So, what else were we going to talk about today, Robert?
Well, I think it's about time for a ditty.
Oh, it's time for a ditty.
Oh, we just sang a ditty. Bad music is.
Bad music's got no reason to live. Bad music's got no reason to live.
Bad music's got no
bad reasons.
Bad music's got.
So, we won't be back next week because I'll be hiking Catalina Island, 38 miles on the Trans-Catalina Trail.
Time?
Well, I get back Tuesday night at 1:30.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not thinking I'm going to be A-okay for an 8 a.m. podcast.
So episode 4, for you who build your entire lives around our podcast, listen next week. It's not happening. So see your therapist.
Is this episode 3 or 2? I can't.
We're 3 today.
Okay. You could call Marie. You know, Marie's just dying to get back on. do a Marie and Roger.
We could have the cardboard cutout of you between me and Marie. We could make Bruce say whatever. Bruce. Yes. Well, the Pastords are dittyless and getting ready
We're out.
to check out.
Love you out
in
we do love you.
digital land.
We do.